Hi everyone, and welcome back to Ameritech Talks. I'm Christina, Growth and Community Manager at Ameritech, where we help connect innovation with real impact, especially when it comes to empowering global tech leaders and the next generation of AI talent. Today's episode is all about building smarter, faster, and with way less stress, especially for those unsung heroes in construction, estimators. And our guest, she's taken on this challenge headfirst. I'm so excited to welcome Tracy Bain Chase, CEO and founder of CoSHA, an AI company that's reinventing how estimators work, bid, and win. Her company's AI assistant is already helping teams cut days of work into hours and increase bid output by 2 or 3 times. Also with us today is Greg Ross, our co-founder and CEO at Ameritech, who's been a champion of mission-driven innovation like Tracy's from day one. Tracy, Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christina.
Thanks, Christina. Great to join you.
Okay, Tracy, before we jump into CoSHA, I'd love for our listeners to hear a bit more about you. What's your background and what brought you into the worlds of data, AI, and construction?
Thanks, Christina. Love the question. So, my background is really two sides of the same coin. On one side, I worked in information systems and data, and on the other, language and communication. But there's always been a common thread, and that thread has been the integration of both. And over the years, has led me to this realization that although companies have been using technology in strategic ways for a while, streamlining their business needs and their solutions through their systems, the thread of integration I've come to appreciate is the kind that serves business communication at a more granular application of technology, specifically at the workflow level, not at the system level, with the goal of closing communication gaps and optimizing efficiencies within an organization and with stakeholders. I've worked in several amazing companies along the way. I started my career in information and data, in nonprofit data at United Way of America. Then I transitioned to financial data at Federal Reserve Board in Washington, and finally ended that career in telecom with MCI Communications. In my role as lecturer and adjunct faculty, I've served many students at the local community college level and served scholarship winners in a special program at Georgetown University in professional oral communication and research for government agencies. So what brought me to AI? Well, to be honest, over the years, I've kept up with both communication and technology as they evolved to this moment, to this era of AI. So CoSHA was born out of this moment and is powered by AI. In terms of why construction, I initially chose to research OSHA regulated industries where I knew that the better integration of communication and technology could save lives. So I looked at the worst scenario with the highest fatalities, which was then and still is today construction, as well as I considered, okay, what's the best opportunity to demonstrate what an application like CoSHA could do? And here we are today.
That's such a good blend of creativity and analytics, and you don't meet people with that background often, and I love that. It's very impressive. So, what inspired you to create Kosha? What was the spark that made you say, this is the problem I'm solving?
To be honest, what inspired me were the high number of fatalities. I entered the door through researching fatalities and injuries and their impact on a company's bottom line. I realized that CoSHA could be used to improve safety and health, as well as situational and hazard awareness in regulated industries. However, having one step inside the construction industry, I realized there was a central point to be strengthened at its core in order to positively influence the whole ecosystem around that central hub. And in construction, in my opinion, that central function is the cost estimator. Therefore, The CoSHA software focuses on solving the problem of optimizing the bid process.
That is so powerful. I love your mission and your social goal. You saw the gap, but also the people behind it, and that makes all the difference. You're laser focused on supporting estimators. What's the bigger vision you're chasing in the construction estimation space?
I am aiming for a holistic approach, one where everyone within the scope of the estimator becomes a beneficiary of CoSHA. And that is through improving communication within an organization, being in the know through the cross flow and integration of workflow processes, and filling gaps that are responsible for profit margin decay through unbilled work, dependence on manual processes, which are often error filled, and later on, those change orders and disputes, which are often costly. CoSHA's lens, if I had to summarize, CoSHA's lens, therefore, is at the central hub of the estimator and reaches all the way to the project build. So let me sum up those ideas for you by sharing our tagline and our mission. Our tagline is we help you build the bid so that you can build the building. This basically encapsulates the full arc of our communication framework. The second idea I'd like to share with you is the three layers of our mission. At the senior executive level, and it's kind of our umbrella meaning, CoSHA stands for cost saving high performance AI. At the estimator and supporting office function layer, CoSHA stands for conveying situational and hazard awareness. And in the field, on-site construction, CoSHA stands for communicating safety and health awareness. Therefore, our mission is to unify the three layers to serve and assist construction companies with optimizing their efficiencies in order to increase their profit margins.
Hey, Tracy. I had a question for you, actually. I love your mission, and I was listening carefully to the first few letters, cost savings. When we're talking about errors, inaccuracies in these bid processes for these construction companies, we're talking about a lot of money, right? Are we talking about thousands of dollars? Are we talking about millions of dollars? Like, what's the potential impact that these inaccuracies, overbidding, the errors can actually produce? What's the scale that we're talking about here? I would imagine it's pretty big, isn't it?
Yes, thanks for that question, Greg. Essentially, what we have learned from our estimators is that it typically takes them 4 weeks to 5 weeks to turn a bid around and done well. But now they're under the pressures of having to turn bids out in 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks. So with the use of CoSHA, we streamline processes that are very labor intensive, time consuming, in order to free up the time to push more bids out. And by pushing more bids out, you're talking about increasing revenue. And because we streamline profitabilities, we are reducing those instances where you have eaten into profit margin. So the combination of generating more bids, creating more revenue, and keeping your profit margin is a way that we are trying to help companies make money.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
That's wonderful. Okay, Tracy, one more question. AI in construction is heating up. What differentiates CoSHA from other players in the space? What makes your approach unique?
Thanks for that question, Christina. I'm actually passionate about how we are different. So what differentiates CoSHA from other players is that the holistic approach I just laid out to you is one that looks at the social component as much as it looks at economics. People matter. Therefore, for me, CoSHA is a true application of ethical AI that does not focus on eliminating a job, but focuses on empowering it so that the worker can optimize his or her performance can multiply deliverables, and still have a quality of life. CoSHA differentiates itself, I believe, and I hold to this truth from other players in the space because its technology serves the human being and not the other way around.
That's what I love. This isn't just AI for AI's sake. It's thoughtful and it meets people where they are. You're right at the edge of AI of You're right at the edge of AI adoption in an industry that hasn't traditionally been tech first. Where do you think AI is heading over the next few years? And how do you see it shaping industries like construction?
Well, as I hinted to earlier, CoSHA is focusing on fitting the technology to elevate the human capacity. And what that means in a practical sense is that CoSHA takes on the labor intensive, time consuming tasks, leaving the worker the opportunity to tap into skills and talents such as problem solving, strategizing, innovating solutions, etc. This separation of the duty will now open up the opportunities for a company by keeping their staff well ahead of the game and well positioned against their competitors. We want to get to the point where the company takes the lead in understanding and owning their own business communication. Why? This will allow them to be committed to placing AI in a support role and elevating their staff. And that goal aligns with ours. I truly believe that if a company can change its expectations that AI is here to serve them, they will strengthen their abilities to close the gaps of communication, to increase productivity, and in turn, increase their profitability.
Love it. AI isn't just a tool, it's becoming a teammate. And I think the best founders like you and Greg are treating it that way. Greg, I'd love to hear your thoughts. When you first connected with Tracy, what stood out to you about her approach and CoSHA's potential?
Well, the thing that stands out about Tracy is her passion for what she does. That's evident. And Tracy has been participating, as you know, Christina, in our AI Innovation Lab. And she's bringing some really interesting new ideas and new innovations to an area that can make a tremendous impact in business. And I really think it's a starting point for her as she continues to develop her CoSHA technology further and further to even expand into more capabilities and more impact, deeper impact in the industry of construction. But I love how she puts people first in her approach. I think that's really critical and it's really refreshing. So often we hear about AI being used kind of as a method to just improve the bottom line of a business, but that's not exactly how Tracy views it. She wanted to bring a valuable tool to these estimators who, by the way, Tracy, are using, they're reviewing hundreds of pages of documents, right? And they have all of these manual intensive processes that they're working through. They're working late hours. There's a lot of stress and pressure for them to try to get it right, because when mistakes are made, it can be costly to the company. So Tracy's heart is to bring an innovation to those estimators to help relieve stress in their role, to help them be more efficient with their time, to help them be more effective and accurate. And I just love how she puts people first. I think that is what makes her unique and different.
Thank you.
Totally agree. It's people first, impact driven, and it's solving real problems, not theoretical ones. Tracy, what kind of feedback have you been getting from early users? Any stories that stuck with you? And what's next for CoSHA? What are you building toward in 2025?
Okay, so far I'm hearing a repeating theme, which is recouping time has been important. So, for example, one estimator said that what he normally does in days, like reading the specs and the blueprints, he can now do in hours because the AI is doing that automated process for them. And due to this recouping of time, more bids can be pushed out, increasing the opportunity for them to send more bids out and generate more revenue. So to sum up then, and the repeated theme has always been by freeing up time, we are now able to have higher degrees of productivity and thus profitability. The second part of your question was what's next for CoSHA? So CoSHA is also committed to helping companies jump a chasm, and I see this as important. It's the transition between the dependence on manual processes to this AI automation, but it has to be done in a way that keeps the humans in the loop. This is important as we all embrace AI, that we come to understand our places in the new AI world, or rather AI's place in our world. Therefore, at CoSHA, we are committed to helping companies reduce fear and anxiety about embracing AI. In the AI market, especially in business integration, it's important to be an early adopter because it takes time to find that happy place with a clear view of where the human role is and where AI's role is. So the balance, that happy space, is something that has to be worked out over time. With the success of rebalancing of functions and positioning people in the AI space, business growth is exponential and inevitable. Therefore, for me, bridging that chasm and being committed to helping companies bridge that chasm sooner as opposed to later is significant.
I absolutely love it. That's the kind of change that sticks. You're not just saving time, you're reducing anxiety, and that's the ethical AI. For folks listening, whether they're into construction, tech, or just curious, what's the best way to connect with you and learn more about CoSHA?
Okay, they can always find me on LinkedIn under my name, Tracy Bain Chase, or at the CoSHA page on LinkedIn, as well as kosha.us, our website URL. Those would be the two best ways.
Perfect. We'll drop the links in the show notes so no one misses it. Tracy, Greg, thank you so much for the work you're doing and for showing us that AI can be personal, practical, and powerful all at once. To everyone tuning in, especially our Ukrainian developers and Edge AI community, this is your reminder. Innovation isn't just about algorithm. It's about empathy, clarity, and people like Tracy who choose to build for real-world change. Until next time, stay sharp, stay human, and stay AI tuned.